welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I'm David and this is a brand new Wilier Verticale SLR. And as the name suggests, it's a bike designed for climbing and going uphill very rapidly indeed. So lightweight is the name of the game here. And it also replaces the old Zero SLR, which launched back in 2019 and I reviewed here on the channel in the early days in 2020. And in some ways it does look like the old Zero SLR, but with some key improvements. And in some ways, from different angles, especially this one right here, it does look like a Diet Volante SLR, the aero bike that launched a couple of years ago. Link to that review up above. And this actual bike, as you see it right now, size large with no pedals, is 6.6 kilos, which is pretty light by modern standards, with disc brakes, electronics, and 30mm wide tyres. And today we'll go through the details of how the Italian company has made it so lightweight, and also find out what weight actually means on a steep climb, as I test myself and the bike on the toughest climb in the entire Cotswolds and see if I can bag a new personal best. So before we dive into the details of how they made it so light, let's talk about the looks. Now, I think it's a beautiful looking bike, a pretty bike, some really good lines on it for sure. And Wilier have a good track record in recent times and olden times of making very beautiful bikes indeed. But my goodness me, that colour, very shocking indeed. When it first arrived, I was blown away by the boldness, the outrageousness of this colour. I was even more shocked when they revealed the name for this new colour. I was hoping, expecting some lovely Italian name that rolls off the tongue, but no. They've called this shade of green Hulk Green. I kid you not, Hulk Green is the name of the colour. And it's a colour, by the way, that the Astana team will race in this year's Tour de France. So that team will definitely be the easiest spot in a fast moving peloton. But thankfully there are other colours available, 4 colours in total. And for me, the velvet red is the one to go for. That colour is sensational. The same colour as on the Volante SLR I reviewed a couple of years ago. But part of me loves how outrageous the colour is. And a bit of a throwback to how outrageous Italian bike brands were in the 90s and 2000s with their paint finishes. So in some ways I love it, in some ways I don't love it so much. But let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. But paint aside, looks aside, let's dive into the details of how they've made it so light. So the new Verticale SLR has been designed and conceived to deliver maximum uphill efficiency, is the official line from the Italian company. And through a combination of really fancy high-end carbon fibre, a new construction method with new moulding techniques and new tube shapes and profiles, they've shaved 10% of weight from the old Zero SLR.
The claimed frame weight is 720 grams compared to 766 for the old Zero SLR. Lighter, yes, but not as light as the 585 grams for a Specialized Athos, 685 grams for a Tarmac SL8, 690 for a new Giant TCR Advanced SL, or 698 for a Trekker Monda SLR. The fork is also lighter than the old Zero SLR, 310 versus 340, while the frameset weight drops from 1,798 grams to 1,663 grams. This actual bike, in a size large with no pedals fitted, is 6.6 kilos, which is the same as a Tarmac SL8 but heavier than a TCR 6.4 kilos. So it's clearly a lightweight bike and definitely in the right ballpark, but could they have made it even lighter?
And yes, bikes 10 years ago were this lightweight. I have one in my garage right now, my old Super 6 Evo, but, the big but, that bike and those bikes didn't have electronic gears, 12-speed group set, hydraulic disc brakes, and 30mm wide tubular tyres, way wider than the 23 and 25 you had 10 years ago, and on reasonably aero carbon wheels as well. And in my experience of riding old bikes versus new bikes, all those changes are improvements that create a better, smoother ride and a more comfortable ride as well. So definitely improvements in my experience, but you might disagree. Right, climbing challenge time. I come to Bushcombe Lane, one of the steepest climbs in the entire Cotswolds. It's rated 10 out of 10 by Simon Warren of 100 Climbs fame, an average gradient of just over 10% and goes up to 25% or more in places. So definitely a good test for this new bike and a good test for weight, because on such steep gradients, aero matters less than weight. So let's saddle up and see how I get on. Here we go, the segment has started. Just flashed up on my Wahoo bike computer. The climb is mellow to start with, so in the big ring, try and keep the speed up. My personal best is 6 minutes 40, a long way off the KOM, but I'm just an average guy. And that time was set 2 years ago, 280 watts, 27 kilometers per hour. Right, so it's really ramped up now. I'm in a small ring. My heart rate shot up. I'm going to pull some ugly faces over the next few minutes. The bike does climb very well. Just no mass. When I push the pedals, the bike's just going forward so nicely. Oh, the gradient's just relentless. No let up right now. The gearing just about allows me to stay in the saddle. Just. Okay, near the top. Not quite there yet. I think the steep stuff is thankfully over. Okay, final push. Can I get the PB? Can I do it? 200 meters to go. I will sprint. I can't, my legs hurt too much. Can't grid. Wow. Wow, wow. Phew, I'm glad that is over. It may only be a short climb, but boy, does it really punch you in the stomach and the legs. That gradient about halfway up is pretty savage, has to be said. And sadly, didn't set a new personal best, but only about 15 seconds off, which isn't too bad considering I'm not in great form right now, and my best performance, my best peak performance is many years behind me, sadly. So actually quite happy with that, and I kind of enjoyed it. So I might go down and have another go, because the bike felt amazing on that climb. You can really feel the benefits of the low weight and the stiffness of this bike when that gradient is above 20-25%. In the saddle, out of the saddle, the bike just feels alive and really does feel like it wants to go forward with every rotation of the cranks. There's no mass trying to hold you back. It really is helping you, assisting you to get up that climb. So a bike that does feel amazing in the climbs, even though it didn't help me on this occasion. But that's not a bike, more reflection of my lack of fitness and form right now. But while I catch my breath and maybe go down for a second attempt, let me show you around some of the details on this new bike and also the price. And straight away, I'm pleased to report we no longer have the ugly Adam's apple seat clamp which the old Zero SLR was afflicted with. It's now a smooth triangular design like on the Verticale SLR, with the bolt up through there and a small rubber flap to stop water going in the seat post. The seat post comes in two offset options, 0 and an offset, which I have here, depending on your needs and preferences. And we have a light built into it, but it's not like the BMC. It removes like that, and this bit here, the remains of that clamp, actually double up as a race plate number for the pros. So quite a nice solution, but it would be nice if there was a seat post option without it, and it is quite high. With a saddlebag there, that rear light is partly obscured, so it could be lower down to be more useful. And then moving up front, we have a brand new handlebar that's very lightweight, a claimed 310 grams, with a very narrow profile along the tops, which I love, feels really nice in the hands. And a flare drop design that's 3 centimeters narrower in the tops than the drops. The handlebar comes in 6 sizes, but the range is a bit limiting, I think. The narrowest option, which is 37/40, goes up to 100mm stem. And then the one I have here is 39/42, goes up to 150mm stem. So you can't have that really narrow handlebar with a 120 stem if you need that, and I reckon lots of people probably would. So a bit of an oversight there, but hopefully more sizes might become available in the future. Another nice detail on this handlebar is the way the computer mount slides into a hole in the handlebar with 2 bolts in the bottom to hold it in place. And it's probably the cleanest solution I've seen so far for fixing a computer mount to a handlebar. And then the stereo tube is a regular round stereo tube, no delta shape or D-shaped. And we have an aluminium sleeve in the back between the 2 halves of the stem to give a more secure and reliable fixing point onto the stereo tube, and of course interlocking spaces to adjust the height as you need. So the climbing challenge was a lot of fun, a good way to test the performance of this lightweight bike. But while I have done a load of climbing on this bike in the time I've had it, I've also ridden all my local routes and roads I know very well. And the big impression I take away from this bike is, while the low weight is amazing in how it feels on the climbs, it's also how reassuringly solid the bike feels despite the low weight. It doesn't feel delicate or flimsy at all. And compared to bikes that weighed this much 10 years ago, like my Super 6 Evo, that bike feels delicate and a bit skittish and very harsh on rough roads. This bike feels solid. You can ride it over rough roads. I've done some light dirt tracks because it's dry and dusty right now, and ridden all my local rough roads, encountered potholes, and going up, down, across, everywhere. It doesn't have that flimsy feel of super lightweight bikes from 10 or 15 years ago. And that makes the performance of the bike so much more accessible. It's easier to tap in to the performance the bike can offer if you're willing to take it onto some steep climbs where the bike really excels, where it really shines. So my overriding impression of living with this bike for the last short while has been that it has all the character and performance of the Zero SLR, but just turned up to 10 or 11. A bit lighter, a bit sharper, just a bit better when it comes to climbing. But the old bike was no slouch, and that bike definitely has the edge when it comes to climbing performance. Doesn't quite have the aero performance of the Volante or a Tarmac, and isn't quite that all-round bike if you want low weight and speed. But if you just want low weight and amazing performance on the climbs, the mountains and the hills, the bike definitely performs very well indeed, and does compare nicely to rivals in this space when it comes to prioritising low weight. It is though an expensive bike, as you might have guessed. The range starts from just under 10,000 euros and goes up to nearly 13,500 euros with Campag Super Record Wireless group set. Yeah, bikes are expensive these days, aren't they? Especially at the pointy end of the range, but this is a pro race bike, essentially the same as the pros will race in this year's Tour de France. And hopefully there will be an SL version along in the future where you get the same frame shape but a low graded carbon fibre, so a bit more weight, but hopefully a more appetizing price tag if you love what you see here but can't quite stomach that 13,000 euros. Right, let's wrap things up then. Is it a bike to buy or avoid or consider? Well, it clearly can't turn me into an amazing climber, but riding it up my local climbs, it felt amazing. The sensation a lightweight bike gives you with the stiffness this one offers is just incredible. But riding the climbs felt amazing on the bike. It felt much more exciting and thrilling to ride this bike up climbs than heavier bikes I've been riding over the last few months. And while it's not as aero as a Volante SLR or even a S-Works Tarmac SL8, and nor is it as light as a giant TCR Advanced SL or the Tarmac SL8 or even an Athos S-Works, it definitely has a good balanced blend of low weight aero efficiency, plenty of stiffness for when you're fighting the bike up a climb and putting as much power as you can through the cranks. And surprisingly good comfort and compliance on my rough roads, helped in no small part by the big fat tyres running at juicy low pressures. It's a bike that does give a nice balance of all those attributes, and a bike I enjoyed riding immensely. So a bike to definitely consider if you're in the market for a modern road race bike with all the modern details and is super lightweight. Definitely a bike to check out in velvet red, of course. Unless you like green, let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to see a review of a lightweight bike that is a bit more appetizing when it comes to price, then check out my video on the Giant TCR Advanced SL, linked right up there. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this by hitting that button down there. Right, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Yeah, Hulk green.